Hello, everybody, and welcome to the weekly podcast that is actually only on monthly or bi-monthly or whatever. A pretty noble idea tonight, White Line Fever Live. The noble idea was to get the band back together, a band that I was never in, but I thought I could be like, Brian Epstein, the manager of the Beatles, and I could get them back together. And we've got one half of last year's podcast hit of the summer. It was Whippets and Flatcaps. And from the Salford Red Devils, it's Mark Flanagan. How are you, Mark?
I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Good. Now, we were hoping that your partner in crime would dial in from across the Atlantic, Jon Wiikin. We haven't heard from him yet. Any news? Has he been seen?
I've just messaged him. I thought it'd be a long shot, to be honest. I know he's enjoying Toronto because he's not been speaking to me for a few days. But he's the hardest guy in the world to get hold of. He's so scatty. I was hopeful he'd be on, but I kind of knew his true colours and knew that he'd probably get distracted by a dog or someone having a chat about it. So, that's Jon. But yeah, I'm here and I'm up for a good chat anyway.
That's good, man. I appreciate your time. You've had a day off training today, is that right?
Yeah. So we play Leeds on Friday. So we did a session yesterday and a session tomorrow. And after Easter, with a lot of games in a short space of time, we don't really spend too much time on the training pitch. It's more about recovery and getting the body right. So hopefully after this weekend, we'll have a decent turnaround and we'll be able to get some more time on the field.
I've tried to be a bit professional here, but I'm still getting used to this technology. But I have a look at this. There we go, an agenda item. What happened to Flatcaps and Whippets? Why isn't the podcast around this year?
Well, we were going to start it at the beginning of the year, and then Will, the anchorman as he calls himself, and likes to think of a bit of a Ron Burgundy type. He's been working around quite a lot. He does a lot in football and for the BBC, so he wasn't really around much at the start of the year. And with Jon heading over to Toronto, it was just logistically a bit of a struggle to get us back together. But we are hopeful of maybe doing something towards the end of the year, or maybe as summer rolls around, we might try and get a couple of shows in. So maybe watch this space.
Tell me about what your aim. I know I did a story about it for 40/20, but when you started doing it, was the ambition to maybe get picked up by the BBC or get picked up by Rugby AM, or did you have a kind of something at a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow when you started doing it?
There was an element of it. Yeah, to begin with, we started it because Jon and I obviously speak about lots of things as we're the best of mates, but we used to speak about rugby quite a bit. And then Will, who's an avid sports fan and works for BBC Sport and really embraced rugby league these last couple of years, we just started talking, and it was a natural kind of conversation we had most weeks when we'd catch up for a brew. So we thought we'd start it and just basically record the conversations that we had, and then it kind of took off, and we managed to get some guests on the show, and we built a bit of a cult following for a while there last year. And the idea was probably to maybe monetize it and to get it more into the mainstream. And we have had some conversations about doing that. There has been a bit of interest in sponsorship and taking it to the next level. But we're quite relaxed with it. If it comes to that, great. If not, we've really enjoyed doing it. And like I said, we've a bit of a cult following. I was on a plane actually last year. I was going away with the wife on holiday at the end of the season, and I got on a plane from Manchester to Heathrow before flying off to the States. And we were sat there. We were sat in 3 seats out the back in economy near the toilets, and my wife was in the middle. I was in the aisle, and the guy in the window seat was actually listening to our podcast on the flight I was on. I could not believe it, and he was in his own little world, and I didn't want to disturb him or anything, but he was listening to one of the episodes. And I was pretty buzzing to see that. It was quite cool to see people who I don't know in just the general public who don't know Jon, Will, or myself actually listening to the show. And he seemed.
How did you know though? He must have had it turned up really loud.
No, I could see it on his iPod. iPod. It was kind of on the table, and I could see our little logo. So that was pretty cool.
Now the other thing that obviously we had a bit of Toronto. I had more faith in Jon than you did, so I had a few Toronto items in here, but I want to ask you about your year this year, mate, and also at Salford, because all the on the field, it's pretty all very positive from the team for the club, and but off the field, there's always speculation sort of buzzing around. How would you how would you sum up the year so far?
Well, on the field, I think we've gone well. I think we're 6 wins and 7 losses, and a lot of our wins have been quite clear wins. We've outplayed teams. We've outplayed Warrington at their place, Catalan away, a really resounding result there, and we've had some big wins. And then a lot of our losses have been tight games where we felt that we've lost the game rather than been outplayed or beaten by a better side. We've either given away loads of penalties or completed really low, or individual errors have cost us. So I think we're quite confident that when we're on our game, we can really mix it with the best. So we'll be looking for this middle part of the season to really kick on. Off the field, I think it's been quite well documented over the years that Salford isn't one of the stronger clubs in Super League. There's whispers about financial difficulty, and since I've been there, I've never been paid a day late. I've never seen anything like that. But you do hear the rumours, and it's no secret that we don't get the same crowds as other teams, and our average attendance was quite a bit below all the other teams last year. So it is. I think it is a bit of a struggle for the club. Having played at the likes of Wigan and Saints, you see the commercial department and the back office of those teams, and there's people everywhere, and they're so well funded in that respect. And I think at Salford they struggle with having a bit of a skeleton staff, and it's not as well financed and probably as a consequence run as other clubs. But we do keep it tight knit in terms of everyone involved with the club is very passionate and wants the club to succeed. So I think if we can kick on with a good season and have some real good success on the field, I think hopefully that'll escalate to off the field as well.
Do you find yourself when you run out to warm up, kind of looking around and saying, oh, "How many's here today?" And wondering what impact that's going to have on the bottom line of the club, and thinking about all those things that you wouldn't think about at Wigan and Saints?
A little bit, yeah. Our fans are really vocal as well, so they probably trick you into thinking there's twice as many there than there actually is. But yeah, I mean, the best moments of my career have always been either winning a grand final or a Wigan Saints derby where the atmosphere is electric and you've played in front of a very loud, busy, partisan crowd. And unfortunately, we don't get that at the AJ Bell Stadium, and it is something that I don't want to say disappoints me, but I do probably sometimes prefer playing at away grounds where the atmosphere is that bit better. So you do notice it, and I think our home form been a lot worse than our away form this year. So that might be a consequence of that. But it's quite a big stadium, and it does need filling at times. But yeah, like us players aren't dumb, and we can see that lower attendances probably mean less eyes on the pitch, and probably there's a consequence of that of less sponsorship because there's less interest in the club, and that does mean that we'll probably spend a lot less than other clubs. So we do notice it, but it's not really worrying. We're very confident in the team we've got.
Mark, this is a kind of a big day in the year of any rugby league player in this country, because I believe today's a day where you get a letter saying whether you're required or not next year, or maybe you are. And also, we've already had 7 names leak out from Wigan of players that they have been offered to other clubs, and like by the close of business today. Can you just it's on Total RL. Can you take us inside May 1 for a rugby league player?
Well, I've never really had much of. I've never really had a problem with it or an issue with it because I've never really kind of ran out the last year of my contract, apart from at Saints when I did. But I kind of knew what was going to happen by this point. But I've never been in a situation where I'm waiting for this day to receive a letter regarding my employment. So I've heard whispers of other players who the last couple of weeks they've had conversations with the club, whether it's a yes or a no, or one lad received a maybe letter and it was still up in the air whether he was going to stay. And you do hear little grumblings about that, and it probably does play on the minds of some players because if they're fighting and playing for a new contract, it probably does affect how they play and how they train. They might be a bit more desperate on the field. They might play through injuries in order to get on the field and prove themselves, and they might be a bit greedy and a bit more selfish on the field to make themselves look good. But from my point of view, I've never really had an issue with it, or had to come to terms with it. So I think it is good though for the clubs, for the Blazers to be given a decent amount of time to like look elsewhere, and it's quite a competitive market out there. So there'll be probably a lot of players vying for contracts these next few months.
Yeah, like I mean, when you've got like Robert Louis, you come home from London, you had a good win, and there's all this stuff in the press. Robert Louis leaving, and chants on the terraces, and then there's a leaked financial report, and there's a player got suspended. Does that ruin your celebrations? I mean, I just wonder how much it kind of really sort of sinks in, or is your focus totally on we had a win yesterday, and I don't really care about any of that stuff,
Well, we don't really care about it. I mean, I did hear the Rob Louis story, and I've played with Rob. I played with him at West Tigers in 2010, so I've known him longer than anybody else at the club, and I know he's a good kid, and I know exactly what he's like, and I get on really well with him. And there was apart from the odd comment when we go for a coffee, and in terms of how good the schools are in Hull for his two sons, or how he's going to get to training when he moves over there. Like, we don't know what's happening, and I've not asked him, but there's a bit of joking, there's a bit of jibe in there. But like, if Rob decides to leave and he's got a great contract, we wish him well. We'll know we'll be able to pick up another good player. So we understand the industry and know that we're mates, but we just work together as well. So we know it's not forever. And I think in our game, because we're not as well paid as other sports in terms of football and rugby union, and we kind of, if I always judge it that if I see another lad get offered a really good deal or something that can help set up his family, like I or none of my teammates would begrudge that player for doing that. I think if they do things the right way and handle things properly, not like Sonny Bill all those years ago walking out on the Bulldogs to sign a big deal with Toulon. I think as long as you do things the right way by your teammates, they'll accept whatever decision lads decide to make. I am just getting messages off John. It says, I've just finished training in Toronto. I've got treatment with the physio.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to
I
happen.
don't think it's going to happen, no.
Yeah. And also, Will said that on Twitter, it'll be shit without me. And so I offered him the opportunity to call in, but he hasn't accepted. We're halfway through, so I should mention that discount code is Whippets and Flatcaps. And which way around was it?
Whippets and Flatcaps.
Whippets and Flatcaps. That's it. So if you go to the those Toronto tour T-shirts on mascotbrowns.com, I should probably type in that stuff. But anyway, it's you get £10 and 1p off. So it'll be $1.99 plus postage. So there you go. You can't ask better than that. Come on, maybe we were going to do some broad brush stuff with John because I'm really interested in his first experiences in Toronto. I just wanted, from your point of view, Mark, I mean, is the game at a bit of a crossroads now? Is there kind of like lines of demarcation between expansionists and the kind of traditionalists? Can we have a future that has both Salford and Toronto in it? Where are we, do you think? How would you characterise where we are as a sport at the moment?
Well, in life, I've always tried to be quite ambitious and strive for the best and aim for the stars. And I'm quite impressed with how Toronto are going, actually. Having watched the game at the weekend with seeing the reported 9,500 there, I think that's great for the game. And I don't think they should be held back in order to wait for the rest of the teams to push up. I think it's up to Salford and the rest to strive to be better and always improve rather than dragging the top teams down, which I think sometimes in rugby league we do. For a team that's in its third season to get that much interest and that much support in a completely new country, I think is a great achievement, and I think it's exciting to see where it can go from here. Obviously, there's a lot needs to be done in this country, and I don't think the traditional heartlands of the game should be left behind. However, it's a business at the end of the day, and clubs need to look after themselves, and they shouldn't just wallow in their old ways and do things they've always done and expect the game just to wait for them to catch up, or John actually always says it, sometimes in rugby league it's a race to the bottom rather than a race to the top, and we just dwell on past times a little bit too much, and we need to be a bit more ambitious and forward thinking, and really go out and show what we're all about as the great sport we are. And I think in terms of the Toronto Wolfpack, it's the exposure of rugby league being a pioneer in a new city, in a new country, is something great. And if there's talk of other teams, New York and Ottawa, jumping on the coattails, I think if that can happen and we can really establish ourselves on that North American Eastern Seaboard, it could be really exciting. And it can be great for the game over here in terms of increased exposure and sponsorship. And there's some blue chip companies that are involved with sport in Toronto, and if they can get on the back of it, who knows where it'll go. But I think it has to be a united front in terms of, like I said, traditional clubs in the north of England and expansion. But I don't think we should go too crazy with the expansion. But if there's a solid, feasible business plan for it to grow over there, then I think we should accept it and roll with it.
Today is the first day that Ottawa and New York can enter the player market. Have you heard any whispers?
They've not called
How popular will they be? Players, there's NRL players, obviously, like Darcy Lussick and Ricky Latelli, who've gone to Toronto. Obviously, it's because it's Toronto. Is there a similar vibe here, or is there a bit of trepidation on the part of players about hopping over the Atlantic to go to a new team?
But I'll just hold you there because my battery's on 2%, so I'll just see if Mason can grab me a spare charge. Just hold on a sec.
No worries.
Oh.
So, probably the first thing I should do is remind you all that you can get a Toronto T-shirt for just $1.99 by going to Mascot Browns. $1.99 plus postage. You go to Mascot Browns and look for the Summer Tour T-shirts, and at checkout with the Whippets and Flatcaps. Whippets and Flatcaps. Yeah, Whippets and Flatcaps. That's the discount code. Just one big long word, and you'll get a £10 and 1p discount. So you'll be able to get it for just $1.99. Try to have a few discounts to encourage people to watch this. Some people probably don't want to hear from me, but they wouldn't mind a bargain. So
apologies about that.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So, mate, tell us how willing do you think players will be to go over there? And is there some trepidation about, is this real money? Will we get paid on time? All that sort of stuff. Does it depend where you are in your life, whether you're married and got a family or whether you're single? How enthusiastic do you think the players will be?
Having spoken to the Toronto guys on how excited and they've been and how much of an eye-opener it is, I think there'll be a lot of interest, to be honest. I think similar to when Toronto were in League One a couple of seasons ago, I don't think they'll get the same quality player they've got now in terms of Latelli and Ashton Sims and John and a few of the other guys. But I think they will get some interest. And, if I was a lot younger and I wanted to see a bit of the world and fancied a new challenge, I'd definitely do. I don't think, I've got our first child on the way in a few weeks, and I've got a business with John and a few other things, so I'm probably not in a position myself to do it. But I think it's a great opportunity for lads, and if you're born and bred in the north of England and you've never seen the world, and a chance to live in New York and play rugby league it comes up. I think it'd be an unbelievable opportunity, and like I said, I can see a lot of response from when lads signed for Toronto a few years ago, and if they can build the way that Toronto have done, I think it'll be a great opportunity.
John's just sent me a text and said, "Have you started?" So you never know. We might get him here by the end of the show. I heard you guys talk a fair bit during your podcast last year about the lot of players in this country, and the financial hardship, the minimum wages at some Super League clubs, and also the players' union seems to be a bit flimsy, a bit touch and go. I think they might have did Gareth Carvell just take another job recently? I'm not sure, but
yeah, he's involved with the GMB and the new players union. And I met with him a few months ago, and I think they're trying to get it up and going again and get some more. I don't want to say rights for the players, but a bit more protection for players in terms of injury and relegation and in terms of the contracts to make sure they're protected. So, yeah, I think Gareth is trying to champion that at the minute.
How I mean, you played in the NRL. Is it still is are things around clubs now what they were in the NRL when you were there at West Tigers, or are they still catching up? Are they still not at the point where they were when you were at West Tigers? You know,
I haven't
sports
much
science, huh?
Oh, sport in terms
Just
of
generally, you know,
yeah,
professionalism.
I'd say it's probably similar to the Tigers when I was there, which was 8 years ago. I'd say it's pretty similar now. Having spoken to, I speak to the Burgess lads quite a bit and a few other NRL boys, and speaking to them quite regularly, I know it's gone on a few levels since then, and it's a few levels above where we are now. So I think there always is that catch up in terms of sports science, and it all comes down to money at the end of the day. There's so much money over there, and it's all allocated towards, you know, creating these amazing athletes, and there's amazing athletes over here as well. But there's a lot of factors over there that help the boys over there become, you know, even stronger, fitter, faster. With, you know, they get an extra month of pre-season, they get longer break in the off season. They don't play as many games, so there's more time to train and build themselves up physically. And there's a lot more talent, and there's a lot more depth of talent as well. So lads have to be at the top of the game for longer and be in tip-top shape. So there's a lot of factors as to why that's the case, but there's a lot of things that Super League should be proud of as well.
Yeah, John's just been sending me texts now saying, do you need Facebook? And yeah, he doesn't. So I don't think we're going to hear from him. So we'll finish up pretty soon. But tell us what it's like to have your business partner like up and go, because it's just happened to me with Mascot Browns with Phil, who's gone back to Australia. What sort of challenges does it present when suddenly you're doing all your communication over the phone?
Well, John's terrible at commuting, so put in a 5-hour time difference and the fact that he's enjoying a new city, it's even tougher. But yeah, we've had the business now for coming up to 5 years, so we're kind of used to working with each other. We've never had a falling out in that time, and I don't think we will, to be honest. We understand each other very well, and we're kind of very conscientious of each other's time and effort, and we kind of always strive to keep it even. Having said that, with him being away, I've had to probably do a bit more than usual, and you know, after training, I've been probably doing a bit more than usual. But you know, like I said earlier, I've got my wife and I've got our first child on the way. So as soon as that comes along, I'll be switching my phone off and changing nappies, and he can do all the donkey work. So yeah, we keep it pretty well balanced. But I think this year might be a bit of a struggle. We've got a fair bit on with another shop opening and other things, and if he's going to be in Toronto sunning himself and drinking beer and eating tacos like he was the other night, I think it might be a bit more difficult for myself.
So what? Tell us about the business. Some people watching may not be aware of it. It's a coffee shop in Manchester. Where are you spreading to?
We opened 5 years ago. It's a specialty coffee shop in Manchester. I kind of, having played in the NRL, living in Sydney, I was spending most afternoons drinking coffee and eating avocado and poached eggs on toast in the afternoon, and a really healthy lifestyle and a real coffee and cafe culture over there, as you'll know. And I came back to England, played with John at St Helens, and we kind of became good mates. And I took him to a place similar to what I'd experienced. I took him to this place in London that was similar to a few of the spots in Sydney, and we both decided it'd be cool to do something in Manchester. And we opened the shop, Pot Kettle Black. It was a week before the grand final in 2014 that we won. And then we kind of extended that site, so we've got a full kitchen, we've got about 70 covers. We've opened our own little in-house bakery, so we bake our own bread and brownies and pastries every day. We opened our second site last year. It's in the business district of Manchester. And then we're going to be opening a third site later in the year and potentially a fourth one next year in 12 months. So what turned out as a bit of a hobby and a bit of a far-flung plan to, do something cool off the field, it's kind of turned into quite a good little business, to be honest, and it's quite exciting to see it grow over these next few years, and it's definitely something I'll do when I retire. Just sipping coffees in the corner and telling people what to do all day sounds good.
We actually have a question from a viewer from Stuart Wood. When's the Toronto branch of Pot Kettle Black opening? What's the answer there?
When John pulls his finger out, I think. It's unlikely.
And then we'll finish up by just asking what the future holds for you, Mark. You just talked about the coffee shop and doing that when you retire from rugby league. Are you at Salford next year? What are your plans?
Yeah, I've got another year at Salford. I think when I signed my last contract, they wrongly announced that it was a 2-year deal. I signed a 3-year deal at the time. So,
all right.
So that's I'll be there next year. That'll take me up to just about to turn 33 at the end of next season. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm pretty open-minded about it. I think I'll see how the body's feeling and see how I feel in myself. If I'm still enjoying it, I'll continue to play. If Salford will have me, that'll be the case. Otherwise, I might go and play elsewhere, or I might hang up the boots. I'm not too sure. I think as long as I'm feeling good in my body and I want to do it, I think I will continue. I don't like seeing players kind of just carry on playing just for the sake of earning a few quid, or when the body's battered and they can't get out of bed on a Monday morning. I don't see myself doing that. But as long as I still want to do it and the body's saying it's okay, I'll continue to play. So
okay. Last question: if you could change one thing about rugby league in this country, Mark, what would it be? What would you change?
Oh, that's a good question. What would I change? I think the stereotypes of the game, which is something that we probably play up to a little bit. We certainly did with our podcast with the name of Whippets Flatcaps. But I think there is a stigma of rugby league and of what people perceive it to be, and I think I'd like to change that and probably. I know it's probably a job for Robert Elston and the new team at Super League to kind of change people's perceptions of the game, but I think it's something that's held it back, and I think if once that's done and we can kind of brand ourselves as a young, exciting, great sport that we are, I think we'll go leaps and bounds.
Mark, thanks for your time tonight. It's kind of didn't go exactly as we thought it would, but I thought it was great, and thanks for joining us.
No, cheers, Steve. Thanks a lot. I'll see you soon.
Enjoy the rest of your day off. See you, mate.
See you, mate. Bye-bye.